What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Stock Hustle channel with your boy William. Today is Sunday, November 21st. As always, guys, nothing that is discussed on the channel is financial advice. I am not a financial advisor to give you advice. I'm simply just a guy on YouTube trying to give people financial education. Education that I then hope they will use or people will use to understand you don't have to slave in 9 to 5s if you don't want to. You can easily hustle 24/7 in the stock market and still achieve all those financial goals, dreams, and aspirations you may have. As with anything else in life, you're always going to get out whatever you choose to put in. So let's put in some work. Today's ticker is going to be INTC, otherwise known as Intel Corporation. Now, some of you may be wondering, what in the name? Why Intel? Well, the reason I'm picking Intel specifically is because it hasn't made a lot of noise. And as you guys can see from the chart, it's been in this downward trend as of recently from April through current, right? Essentially through April, right? It got affected by that correction we did have earlier this year. Obviously, it's dragged the price down. Then you had some chip shortages, which didn't help either, which has helped bring the price down. However, there was something pretty interesting that I found in the charts when I started looking, right? So specifically, let's get into it. As you see, these circled areas here are the Novembers of the previous 4 years. If you notice a trend that I noticed right away, specifically was after every November down run, right? When it's trading sideways, this is on a 1 week view, so each candle is indicative of 1 week on a chart, right? After every consolidation period in November, there's always a run up that follows, usually ending March, April, right? Specifically, we can go back. This is November for 2020. Prior to 2020, so 2019, essentially going into 2020, as you see, the run up ended essentially here, end of February. The reason why this one ended in February, not in April, back over here, was because we had the COVID sell-off, which is labeled right here on the chart. But we skip this year and go back a previous year. This is essentially this November, December of 2018. As you see, we had a run up afterward, following ending essentially in April again before we had another sell-off, right? We go back a little further. Once again, you see November, December, leading up all the way into May this time, right? In this specific year set, right? So this is 2017 going into 2018. So those are 4 years of repetitive patterns, right? Where in November you have a consolidation period followed by a run up going into the spring specifically, right? So that caught my attention, number one. Number two, the downtrend is closely approaching a certain area that it likes to hit. As you see, this dotted dashed line prior to 2018 or 2017, excuse me, has been a very strong area of support, including during COVID, where it touched and then bounced right back off, right? Something important to consider when you're trading, right, is what is historical data telling you, or what is it done historically on a chart, right? So these are 4 signs that right away caught my attention. Obviously, the chip shortage has still been affecting it. However, with the infrastructure bill now officially signed into law, a lot of these chip makers are going to be getting a lot of money to build up their resources, right? Some of you may know this, some of you may not know this. Intel has a very large presence in Phoenix, Arizona. Specifically, there is a plant that is about 4 miles to the east of me, and to the south of me, they have their new plant they just finished building, which is about 5 or 6 miles south, right? 2 enormous facilities that they have built specifically just for chip production, right? One recently going into production. In the job that I do, in the nature and the business that I've done, I've dealt with a lot of employees from Intel. I can tell you firsthand, they give out a lot of brain visas specifically. A brain visa is when you are given a visa from another country to come live here in the United States to work for a company, right? They sponsor a significant amount of employees out of Israel, out of India, out of China, out of Japan, because again, I would meet these people firsthand in my day-to-day job. So I have a lot of experience with Intel. I know they are a very large corporation. They've not been making a lot of news this year. When you've been seeing companies like Nvidia, AMD, right, making these enormous bullish runs, they've been quietly working, steadily working, right, building and growing. Specifically, again, this is another reason why I highlighted Intel specifically. I've been looking at a couple other ones. You might see another video or two from some chip makers, but again, that's another reason why this highlighted my attention. If we're looking at the indicators, you see that we are in a selling period on the MACD. However, we are getting close to converging into a buying period, and our RSI is essentially close to oversold right at 38, right? So 8 points off of oversold. Excuse me. So Let's get into some other details that I found on Intel specifically. They do have a website. Obviously, you can go in their website and dig around to see exactly what they offer. But as you can clearly see when you click on products, they offer a multitude of products in a bunch of different areas of the tech sector. So again, this is a very, very large company that has been run down, that I feel is undervalued at the share price of $49.52 specifically. With all the money flowing in, I see nothing but potential growth in Intel specifically, right? Also, as you guys like to know, I'd like to dig into financials and stuff. I did go looking up for 13F filings, and I did like that I saw that the CFO, specifically Chief Financial Officer, did make some acquisitions in shares. He did disposition or sell some, right? But he did also acquire more than what he sold, which to me is another bullish sign. Anytime you have insider buying, that is a very, very bullish sign. Additionally, I did like seeing the fact that the CEO, Patrick Gensler, as you see here labeled CEO, did acquire a significant amount of position shares. As you see, he acquired 35,000 after selling 17,000, right? That is still buying more than what you have, right? So again, anytime you have insider buying, that is a very bullish sign. That tells you that they are bought into the company and they believe in the product and stand behind it, right? Something you definitely want to see. It's way better to see buying versus selling. So just please, something to consider, right? Obviously, I want to go ahead and pull their earnings for Intel. As you see, they have smashing earnings. Even though they are in a chip shortage, they are not falling behind the pack. They are producing and giving out some very bullish numbers. Specifically, once this chip shortage is over, I believe they will be another dominant presence in the chip sector. Once again, net revenues, as you see, from 2020 to 2021, positive momentum. Looking at a 9-month span, again, you see positive momentum. Obviously, you would want to see numbers way greater, right? But it is still good to see that they are still producing positive output in their financials, right? They had a pretty close call here in the last 9 months from 2021 to 2020. As you see, there's essentially only a $600 difference, or $600,000 difference, right? But again, I'll leave the earnings report attached. If you guys want to dig through them, please feel free. It is good to get a grasp on how to read earnings reports, because again, it gives you a better understanding of a company you choose to buy in, right? Things like liabilities are important to understand. Why liabilities are growing, as I just mentioned to you, they just did produce a new plant, so I know that that is a very large expense. They had to invest in themselves, which again can produce liabilities, because you have to buy land, you have to buy contracts, you have to pay people, right? There's a lot of different financial pieces that go into that, right? So just things to consider. But again, I'll leave the earnings report attached. If you want to dig through it, feel more than welcome to. Going into some smart money analysis, let's go to Nasdaq, as we trust and like to see the information they provide us. As you see, Nasdaq has a hold rating on it specifically, with a significant amount of firms, 15 to be specifically, analyzing Intel Corporation. As you see, they have a consensus low of $40. Currently, we're sitting at $49.52. And then you see that the average is $53.90, and then the high being $80. Moving along into Marketbeat, they also do give out ratings. They have a hold rating specifically on it. As you see, a 13% upside with a consensus price of $56.35. As you see, we are sitting at $49.52, and their high as well is slated at $80. If you go down through the breakdowns by month, you see the current, they have 7 buys, 15 holds, 11 sells. A month ago, it was 11, 11, 11. Very lucky, make a wish. 3 months ago, you had 12, 11, and 11. And then a year ago, you had 15, 17, and 9, right? In either case, there is still potential upside. The actual potential upside has actually grown as of recent, right? Going into institutional ownership, I always like to show you guys this piece as well, right? So you can kind of see who's buying, who's holding, who's selling. Has been some selling. Obviously, the chip shortage, again, did not help its numbers for 2021. But as you see, 2020 fourth quarter, there was a significant amount of buying versus selling. If you go down into who is currently holding, right, shares held, these are the leaders specifically in this. I will also point out one very important thing. Pay attention to increased positions, right? As you see, as of recently in November, you've seen a significant amount of position increase. I don't know, potentially, is it why? Because they're expecting the same thing I'm mentioning, and a potential run-up going into the spring. I mean, that could play a factor, which is why you could potentially be seeing these increases in positions for institutional owners, right? The last piece I always like to show you guys is unusual whales, my favorite tool in the stock market for trading. If you don't have it, I definitely encourage anyone who is interested in having it, please learn this tool. Please add it to your arsenal, because it will produce nothing but positive gains. Again, the emphasis is once you learn to use it. There are a multitude of people on YouTube and Twitter that are more than willing and happy to teach you how to use it. But definitely I would recommend starting with it and maybe using just a paper account. Once you feel comfortable using it and understanding the information it's giving you, maybe then initiating on a real live account, right? So that you aren't risking any money potentially in it, right? But specifically, once we go in here, we're going to go into the flow page. No filters on the left. As you see, everything is turned off. Once again, the 250 is set. Please remember to make that set to 250. We're going into the charts. What do we see specifically? See that we are bullish for the November 19th, which is past Friday. It was bullish. And then our next bullish date would be December 17th specifically. But if we go all the way through the line, essentially we are very bullish leading up to the December 17th. And obviously the March 2022, as you see, that is the greatest disparity in change, right? At what strike, specifically the 45, the 49, and the 5250 stand out. Once again, we'll go in here and start filtering now. So we'll go 15,000 premium, as Intel is a lot bigger of a company. We will go down here and do out of the money specifically, one of my favorite filters that I like to add. And then we will go back in and you will see. Now, once again, bullish for December 17th, bullish for April 2024. But where is the March? Oh, March 2022, also very bullish. At the strikes, 45 and now the 50 stand out the most specifically. So once again, I do believe that this will have a run-up leading up into the spring, right? That's not a guarantee. Again, with the stock market, no one can predict what the stock market will do. But again, just following historical trends, you can very easily see that. For all my skeptics out there that think this may not be possible, I will give you one last catalyst that I found. And for this, I'm going to use my trading view as it gives us a better breakdown in view. If you set a trend line essentially starting back in 2013 and draw it through, you will only find one small false break, or two, excuse me, in all this time from 2013 till current. And as you see, this has been very well respected by Intel specifically, right? And as you see, we are now at the lower part, closer to this trend line, which presents to you a buying opportunity. Why a buying opportunity? Because it's where a strong trend is, or a strong area of support, right? If you want to enter a trade, you would always want to enter it close to a level of support. Why? Because you feel or have confidence at that point that you won't break through specifically, right? If you're looking at specifically our indicators, we have the stochastic here showing us potentially getting close to an entry point. As you see the two lines converging close to 20, the RSI is also getting very close to oversold, right? So just another thing to consider. But as always, guys, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to address them. Don't forget, you can always tweet or DM me on Instagram or Twitter. And as always, you can also follow me on TradingView, stock underscore hustle 21 for those that are interested to follow me on TradingView as well. As always, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.